We're back.
We're back.
And we're gonna totally not die in this house.
I don't know. I'm looking at it. It doesn't look. I mean, it looks better.
It looks nice.
It looks nice. It looks nice, but I have some questions. Like, is
I don't know what that thing is above the fireplace.
I was trying to look at that too, and then also like, what's to the left of the gray chair? Is it like a cardboard box on the floor? It looks like a bed that you make for a kitten.
That's probably a cardboard box full of like firewood and other stuff to put in the fire.
So not kittens?
No.
You don't put kittens in the fireplace?
You wait until Halloween to throw kittens in the fire.
I think there's a clothesline up at the top too.
That could be.
I don't
think
know.
He has a lot of space to work with.
Where did they find this photo?
Yeah,
it's such an odd house. I've never seen like a house composed like this.
Well, they're all supposed to be trailers, but they're very different ideas of trailers. Like Kudzu's is such a small, like mobile.
His looks like
thing.
the most like a mobile home.
Yeah, his looks like it's not. Well, like a lot of quote unquote mobile homes are like a thing that was like shipped there, like the diner essentially, and then it's not really meant to be mobile.
Well, it's like a
day to day,
a portable.
But Kudzu's looks like a trailer specifically, whereas these look like the portables you have at a school, like that kind of building, as version of a mobile home. Because that's what those are too. Is those are the temporary the temporary buildings they have outside of a school area.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I knew my grandma lived in one like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just, it's odd. I just don't know who decorates like this.
Yeah, hang something up, bud.
Yeah, bud. Well, anyways, Kudzu says...
I just don't feel like I'd want to have a fireplace that close to all of my books. Not because it's going to, like, catch...
It doesn't look like those are books. It's like just a bunch of... It's like very random stuff.
Maybe. And
it looks like... it's a very odd shelf. Someone just built a shelf in the corner.
Yeah,
their house like that. I don't know. It's just I have a lot of like.
It's decor.
I like that these photos are kind of blurry because you really cannot tell what those things are.
I 1000% have no idea what the weird cracked thing is above the fireplace.
Yeah,
or what's above that for that matter.
Oh, so I even know it's on the mantle. Like there's
like a bottle or something. I don't know.
Someone find us this original image.
It might just be a Google image. Actually, did they take these pictures themselves? I don't know.
I don't know how you'd find it.
Anyways.
All right. Check every room and door. It's not a very big house.
Kudzu sets off down the hall.
Look for stairs. I feel like he'd be in the basement.
As Kudzu goes into a room to the left, I peer into the one to the right. It looks like a bedroom with a single twin in the middle of the room.
I just imagine a twin standing there, like a person.
Yeah. How do you know it's a twin? I just get vibes.
It's creepy.
Yeah, just gets off twin vibes. I think that they should not be immediately splitting off.
No, they always...
Also...
Rule number one always.
Okay, so this is a house.
Yeah,
there's a basement.
Yeah, I was confused by that too.
It looks like I take a few steps in, looking around and not seeing anything else. When I turn back around, I do see some picture frames hung up on the wall. Seems kind of odd for someone like Duke to have those up.
Pictures of clowns.
They're all clowns.
Clowns crying. Dude, John Wayne Gacy literally had pictures of clowns hung up in his house, and people did not realize he was a killer. Anyways.
In the pictures, I see a much, much younger Duke. Or at least pre-meth Duke.
So it looks younger no matter what.
6 months. Next to him is a female weasel. Her smile small compared to Duke's tooth-bearing grin. She's in 3 other pictures next to that one, too. Weird. I wouldn't have thought anyone would want to be with Duke, especially someone as pretty as that weasel. Okay. I mean, first of all, pre-meth Duke, so now you're just bullying him.
Yeah, just saying that even pre-meth Duke was ugly.
I mean, he doesn't seem bad, like, whatever.
Maybe he has a glowing personality when he's not on meth.
Radiant. I move on to the next room, and this one's completely empty, painted white. The next door down is the last one on the right side of the hall. This is the only door that's closed, and, like the last room's walls, it's painted white. It's taller and seems to be a bit thicker than the other doors. When I try the knob, it's locked. Kudzu? I whisper, and Kudzu pokes his head out from the door just behind me.
What's up?
I point at the door in front of me. This one's locked. Kudzu stands in front of the door and presses his ear to it. I see his hand hover in front of the crack between the door and its frame. Then he reaches out a hand and pulls it up to the same spot. He looks at me.
You feel that?
I'm about to say no, but that's when there's a noticeably cooler draft coming from within. It's kind of cold.
The basement. I bet my ass that Leo's down there.
I swallow. Should we try to break down the door or something?
I don't...
Kudzu's ears suddenly perk up straight, and his eyes widen. My fur bristles out. What? That's when I hear it. The crunching of gravel. Kudzu grabs my arm and starts pushing me back down the hall towards the back room with the broken window. At that moment I hear the knob turn, and suddenly my path changes direction as Kudzu steers me into a room on our left. It's one of the rooms I hadn't looked into myself, and I see it's a storage room. Boxes are everywhere, and so is a bunch of junk. I guess that explains why all the other rooms are so spotless, and that he's not using his basement for storage. Kudzu looks around desperately for a moment, then pulls me behind a mound of boxes just as I hear the door swinging open.
The problem ain't that he got away.
That's worse. It's so much worse that he's talking to someone.
Oh,
that
yeah.
means Brian's here, probably. That's so much worse.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You know how effective gunshots are against bears.
I mean, better than...
Not gunshots.
Not gunshots.
Better than not gunshots. Duke is practically screeching when he comes inside, as if he'd been waiting to be indoors before he yelled. Underneath Duke's pattering feet on the wooden floor, I hear two loud thumps and know immediately who's with him.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, so Brian lived.
And we've trapped ourselves inside.
Yep.
And they're about to know that we're here, or we're here. And the first instinct they'll have is to look for us when they see the window.
Yep.
To make sure we're not still here. And if we're extremely lucky, they'll miss us somehow.
And we'll sneak out that window
and
again.
open the basement to see if Leo's still there.
Yes, I think you're probably right. But I mean, if the door is still locked, I don't know why. Like, if you have a broken window and the door is still locked, I'm assuming it can only be locked from the outside with like a key or something. Or I guess it'd be locked from the inside. Well, yes, I guess he could just escape then.
My blood runs cold, and my breathing seems to stop, worried that they'll be able to hear even that.
If he's behind all this, he's going to make things so much worse. I
hear a non-committal grunt from the bear, and I shudder at the sound of his voice again. I feel a light touch on my back as Kudzu rests his hand there, trying to comfort me.
What do you mean, huh? You like the dreams you're having right now? Because trust me, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse.
I hear a smacking sound, which I imagine is Duke's tiny hand trying to slap Brian in the face. I think, is it just a normal-sized hand? Tiny compared to Brian, I guess?
Yeah.
It's just like his tiny hand.
What the fuck you staring at?
Duke's grating, nasally voice echoes around the carpetless house. No one sounds like what you would think they would.
Your window.
There's a moment of silence, and I hear some shifting around. Then suddenly I hear Duke's footsteps bustle down the hall. I duck more deeply behind the boxes as he passes the doorway to our room.
Fuck. Fuck! Is someone fucking in here?
I mean, not anymore now that we're here. They probably stopped.
Oh. Brian's like, they started without me.
Brian's lumbered down the hall, basically standing right in front of our room. I hear two more thumps and a bunch of rustling as Duke ineffectively beats at the bear's bulk.
Fucking idiot. They broke in.
I hear a jingling of keys as Duke continues to shout.
Check every fucking room. I bet they broke the basement window too. Fuck.
Oh, that's why they're gonna check the basement then. I'm like, I totally see how this ends up. It adds tension, but also they think they're like, that this is totally gonna be our chance at Leo if he's here.
There's a window in the basement?
Yeah. There's usually a window to the basement.
Oh, it's that one that's on the top.
Yeah, the one that's at the top of the basement but at the bottom of the ground, like at the ground. Yeah. It's the type of window we were looking for in Carl's house, but his house is too cool for that kind of window. It's got like a full-size underground window, which is insane.
And like a little area built around it. It has like a water
slide into it. Now that he says it, breaking through the basement window might have been a better idea. Looking between a crack in the boxes, I get a flash of the weasel walking past the door again. He's holding something long and shiny. I shrink back against the boxes, wondering how in the world I got here, so he's probably holding a shotgun. As I stare at the ground, I also wonder if I'm about to have a heart attack. I focus on watching the blood seep on my arm, pooling on the wooden floor next to me. Ah, he's got a trail.
Oh no! Oh, they
can literally follow the blood trail to where he is.
That's such a classic horror movie trope.
They fucked up so bad. I hear a key go into a lock and a doorknob turn.
I swear to God, if that wolf ain't down there, I'll blow your goddamn face off.
You're really good at camaraderie, Duke.
Also, you're really good at like telling us that Leo's down there.
Yeah. Duke's voice fades away, accompanied by receding footsteps down the stairs.
He's good at exposition, that's what I'm looking for.
The heavy footfalls of Brian start to move around slowly towards the other end of the hall. Kudzu moves his hand up to my shoulder. I look at him, and he holds a finger up to his lips, then points in the direction of the broken window.
I don't think you needed to put the finger up to your lips. I think Chase knows to be quiet.
I don't want to move at all. In fact, I'd rather sit here and just disappear into the floor. Somehow, though, I'm able to force myself to my feet as Kudzu tugs me up. We move very slowly to the doorway, and there Kudzu holds up a hand, making me pause. I watch his ears perk, flicking in the direction of Brian. My hearing probably isn't nearly as good as his, but I'm still able to pick up the bear's heavy, labored breathing. I hear some shuffling, then more heavy footsteps. Kudzu freezes as we both listen to the bear move back into the hallway. Then his footsteps fade away. I imagine he's moved into another room, and that's when Kudzu finally appears around the corner. I hold my breath, but Kudzu reaches back and grabs my wrist, pulling me out into the hallway. It's empty, and as quietly and as quickly as we can, we move to the end of the hall to stand next to the broken window. Kudzu sticks one leg out the window before balancing his entire weight on both hands that are resting on the bottom ledge. Like a gymnast, he moves the other leg out and quietly drops to the ground outside, his head narrowly missing the top ledge. I don't know if it's because he's a raccoon or an actual gymnast, but there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to do that. Kudzu's already reaching for me, though, his eyes wide with a frantic worry. I can hear shuffling sounds behind me again, coming from one of the rooms. Kudzu reaches out towards me, then suddenly waves his hand wildly in the direction of the room right next to me. Heart pounding, I almost stumble through the doorway into the room. This one has a few chairs stacked up against the side of the wall, and what looks like a closet door. Brian's footsteps thump down the hall again, and I almost gasp as I get a glimpse of his massive shadow through the doorway. So now we've hidden separately. All three of us are in different places, and we still have a blood trail going to where we are, which means there's a new blood trail where there wasn't a minute ago. But then it disappears as I hear his footsteps move into the room right next to me. From just inside the room, I see Kudzu slowly pop back up in front of the window, then motion frantically towards himself. My legs are like jelly, though, and I hesitate.
So Kudzu doesn't know about our falling, our habits with falling, and then our just general clumsiness.
Our sad, stumpy legs.
He's like, you can do this, right? But I mean, Kudzu himself is he's nature's little burglar. So he's built for sneaking in and out of places. That's like what he's for.
Then there's a raspy dragging sound in the room next to me that almost makes me jump. It's the sound of a cardboard box being slid across the floor. I hear Brian mumbling.
Definitely not paint.
What, did he lick it?
I would not put it past him. He's so scary. Like, this is very tense because he's so fucking scary.
I force my numbed feet to stumble out into the hallway toward the window. Kudzu reaches for me, his eyes desperate, but then I hear the shuffling behind me again. Why is he moving so fast now?
Because he saw your trail.
Automatically, I step back into the room, while Kudzu continues to beckon to himself. Brian's lumbering footsteps move down the hallway, slowly in my direction. Kudzu is ducked back down, out of sight. I'm alone, and trapped. I remember the closet at the last minute, and lunge towards it, not having enough time to worry about the sound I make. Somehow, the closet door glides open with hardly a sound, as if the hinge had just been recently greased.
So lucky.
I step inside, then swing the door shut, trying not to let it snap closed. In that exact moment, Brian's lumbering gait enters the room. I shrink back against the wall, holding my hands to my mouth, trying not to breathe. My heartbeat is so loud, it's the only thing I can hear as it pounds in my ears. I hear coughing and grunting coming from behind the door, then it goes quiet. I wait, unsure whether the bear has left or not. Slowly, I walk up to the door, press the side of my head gently against it. I listen, trying to see if I can hear anything. I swallow, then reach up to rest my hand on the doorknob. I think about making a run for it, maybe trying to dive through the window. I might get hurt, but if I'm able to get away... I wait for what feels like 2 or maybe 3 minutes. It's complete silence on the other side. I wait even longer, to the point where I'm sure there's no way someone like Brian could keep that quiet that long. So slowly, as slowly as I can, I push the door open. And it immediately comes into contact with something on the other side, before it's even a foot open. It's soft, whatever it is, and the door almost bounces back from it. I wait for a moment, then, as I'm starting to realize what just happened, a massive bear paw reaches around the edge of the door.
Oh, fuck.
In the next half second, the door is ripped open, and I find myself facing Brian. A weird, numbing feeling spreads down my crotch and into my legs as I sag in front of the bear. My mind refuses to think, to even process what my eyes are seeing. What it does process is pure terror. Brian seems to have trouble understanding what he's seeing as well. He stares at me for a few seconds, his eyes practically crossing as he focuses on me. Then he grins.
Hey, you.
I can't respond. Instead, I press back into the closet, flattening myself against the wall as he reaches out to me. Still, there isn't much I can do as he grabs the front of my shirt and yanks me out of the closet. He starts to pull towards the doorway, and as I stumble into the hall, I'm finally able to start trying to move again. Seeing the window, I lunge towards it, but Brian's grip is too strong. I hear a few popping sounds as some threads in my shirt give out, and Brian yanks me back violently. Everything goes black as something massive knocks up against the side of my face, and the next thing I know, I'm thrown down the hall, flat on my back. I'm staring up at the ceiling, watching it slide sideways above me, like it's painted onto a treadmill. My right foot is hiked into the air, and I realize that Brian's dragging me along the floor now, back towards the end of the hall. The fur on my back glides easily along the hardwood, my shirt scrunched up to my chest. Brian stops as he reaches the white door, pushing it open. Dizzily, I look up at the window, wondering if Kudzu is there, and if he can see me. I reach towards it, but that's when I'm being dragged again, and I land painfully on the first step. I gasp and turn sideways so that as Brian drags me clumsily down the rest of the steps, my spine isn't taking the rest of the corners. It's dark, and the air turns cool and musty. We finally reach the bottom of the steps, pain pulsing at various points in my body from the rough handling. Brian starts dragging me again, and I finally realize that he's going to have me trapped again. He'll do whatever his sick mind thinks up, and there won't be anybody there to stop him. No. I moan, and try to grab something, anything to stop me from being pulled deeper into this basement. My hand manages to latch onto a wooden beam next to the stairs. Brian grunts as my body is snapped into full extension, and we're brought to a halt.
Come on. Let go.
I keep clinging to the beam, imagining that any moment Kutsu's going to come running down the stairs, gun in hand. That comes to an end as Brian kicks me in the chest, and I let go with a wheeze.
You know, you're the one making this hard on yourself.
He starts dragging me again, as I curl up and cradle my chest, vaguely hoping that he'd given me a heart attack and I'd be free from all this.
I swear to God, if you're lying to me, Leo, I'm gonna paint the ceiling with your fucking brains.
Why am I still here if someone came in to save me then? The sound of Leo's voice has me snapping my eyes open again. While it isn't quite as heartening as Kutsu barging in with a weapon, it's definitely relieving to hear his voice again. That's so much sriracha.
I was gonna say, like, is that like all Tabasco up there?
Those are probably beer. Or Canada Dry bottles.
It's like a bunker down here.
It's just a lot of green bottles. I guess a lot of beers are green.
Heineken. Wait, I think that might be the ones on the right kind of look like Dos Equis.
I'm dragged through another doorway into a brightly lit room, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead. As I come to a stop on the cement floor, the room goes quiet and I squint against the sudden light. The walls on all sides are covered in shelves that are filled with silver tins and soup cans. A storage room of some kind. Duke is standing in the middle of the room next to a metal chair, staring at me. In that chair is Leo. His arms are down at his sides, and I can see that they're both handcuffed to the sides of the chair. Which is awkward, because we only really drew him with the arm crossed.
Yeah, crossed arms.
His feet are similarly strapped to the chair's legs. His face is one of shock, as he also stares at me, open-mouthed. I stare back, even feeling weirdly self-conscious as everybody watches me. Duke breaks the silence.
I knew it.
Duke is snarling, but it's not at me. Instead, he's looking at Brian, his lips drawn back as he growls.
This is what the fuck happens.
Brian scratches his head.
What happens?
Duke kicks at the air with a foot before stamping down on the hard cement that makes the floor of the room.
This! Leo wasn't supposed to know he got away. Well, I caught him, so what's the difference?
Duke lunges at Brian, swinging his arms a few times to beat his fists uselessly against the bear's bulk. Brian flinches back anyway, letting go of my foot. Leo's still staring down at me, mouth slightly less open, and I have no idea what's going on in his mind right now. I suddenly realize how stupid I was to come here with Kutsu. Sure, saving Leo as soon as possible was important, but why had I thought we could have done it alone? I mean, because you thought you thought you'd either take down Duke, or the house would be empty, which was what it would look like at the time.
But Kuzu was right, and you were just a burden like he said you'd be.
I should be in my car right now, halfway to Peyton, 20 minutes away from the cops. I don't know. I know that you don't believe that that's gonna be a bad idea, but I feel like that's gonna be a bad idea.
Yeah, I think so too. With all the supernatural stuff that's been happening.
Yeah, the mayor setup sounds legit in a worrying way, which between that and the phones explains like half of what happens in the story. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, okay, no one can call anyone, including within the town, so that's why these two can't communicate very well, for example. And you can't leave because you get gored by a horrible monster, like from Pitch Black. Instead, I'm in Duke's basement, about to be murdered. I slowly sit up, just as Duke seems to finish his beating of Brian. Gasping, he turns to me.
Fuck. Well, if you're here, I guess we'll just have to make use of you.
He waves his hand loosely between me and Brian.
Pick him up.
Wait a second, just...
Shut up.
Brian picks me up roughly, almost encircling my chest with his hands, alone, as he pins my arms to my sides. He holds me in front of Leo, and Duke stands to the side, between us. It's only now that I notice the puffiness in Leo's left eye, some crusted blood near his brow, and some more coming down from his lower lip. It's not terrible, but it's clear he's been hit a few times. As I watch him, I see the fear in his eyes reflected back at me. That alone almost scares me more than the situation we're in.
Not smirking anymore, are you?
Duke bares his teeth in Leo's direction.
Been trying to wipe it off your face this whole time. Seems like this was all I needed to do it.
Duke gestures at me.
You're a little fuck otter, huh?
Leo closes his eyes and shakes his head. Why are you here? He mumbles it, almost to himself. Duke leans in closer to the wolf. Why didn't you run if you got away? He opens his eyes and he's looking straight at me. I don't know if he expects me to answer, but the look of defeat on his face makes me feel like I have to. No, Chase!
Don't say we!
Chase! We wanted to save you. We didn't know where you were or what was happening. Duke suddenly leans away from Leo towards me, his eyes narrowed.
We? Who's we?
I feel my stomach drop as I realize what I've just done. I mean all of us. I saw some of my friends out there before I came here, but I'm alone. Wow, good cover. It's not.
Wow.
Duke studies me closely.
Was there anyone else up there, Brian?
Brian is sulking behind me, letting go of my shoulder occasionally to rub at his chin.
Didn't see nobody, except this otter.
Duke looks up at the ceiling, like he's listening for footsteps or something. Duke snaps his attention back to Leo, and I notice his face is practically dancing with twitches and tics. This is crazy. Leo enunciates each word through gritted teeth, his muzzle lowered so that he's looking up at Duke eye to eye. Look at this. Look at everything you've done. It makes no sense. Duke lets out a high-pitched laugh.
Crazy. You know what's crazy?
Duke gestures at me again.
Ask him what he saw out there.
Duke turns to face me, swinging his hand from me to Leo.
Go on, tell him. He doesn't believe me.
The corner of Duke's eye seems to have a mind of its own, like there was some kind of living creature under the surface, writhing around.
Ew. Was it a little crazy?
I stare at Duke, entranced, until Brian gives me a quick jerk. I saw a body. There were gunshots. Duke giggles.
And that ain't the half of it. Houses afire, people eating each other. You think I'm crazy for shooting Janice, but if you knew...
But how the hell are we supposed to know why that is? Leo leans forward as far as his bonds let him, eyes wide, almost pleading with Duke.
This started when you got here.
Duke lowers his voice dangerously, leaning back towards Leo, their noses almost touching. That doesn't mean shit. Leo speaks haltingly, back at the weasel.
Does this?
Duke suddenly pulls the gun from the waistband of his pants and points it straight at my face.
Uh-oh.
I'm barely able to comprehend it before Brian jumps to the side with me, out of the way of the gun.
Fucking Christ, dude. Dude. Fucking Christ, Duke. Don't point it at me.
Leo almost stands up on his toes with the chair still attached to his body, fur bristled out all over his body. Duke lowered the gun, though, still watching Leo. Leo slumps back in the chair, trembling. Just Stop, Duke, I don't know anything. Duke stares for a moment at the wolf, frowning. Then he looks down at his gun, as if contemplating something. Slowly, he looks at me, then points the gun at Leo's head. My heart jumps into my throat, and Brian has to hold on to me as I try to hold out my hands. Wait, what are you doing?
Maybe it is just you, Otter.
What?
It's you I was seeing before you got here, and it was you I saw sneaking around at night.
What the hell are you talking about? I feel myself start to panic as I see Duke's finger tighten up around the trigger. I don't know what's happening. Luke's doing his best to keep his head out of the line of fire, leaning his head as far to the side as he can. Duke doesn't seem to be paying attention to him, though, instead keeping his eyes on me. Just explain to me why you think it's me. Maybe I can help. That seems to get some sort of reaction out of Duke, and he lowers the gun just a bit. The problem now, though, is that it's pointed at Leo's chest, and there's no way he can dodge that. Luke is studying me closely, as if trying to figure out what to say.
You know this has happened before.
My mind races. The mass hysteria thing? Like 100 years ago?
Yeah, that's right. See, how do you know that?
He looks closely at me, but I'm relieved as he finally takes the gun away from Leo, to be pointed at the ground. I did some research before coming here. I'm doing a news story on Echo for school. Duke is still eyeing me suspiciously.
So you know about the murder?
I try to think back to my research about what exactly happened. It was a while ago now, and I planned to fill in the gaps when I got back to Pueblo. Kind of. It happened in the mine?
Yeah, it did. And then people went nuts.
I wait, but Duke doesn't go on, filling the air with awkward silence. I can see Leo's head looking back and forth, probably trying to come up with a way to get out of this. I hope he's figuring something out, because I have no idea how we're going to do that. But do you know why? I'm trying to sift through Duke's psyche to figure out why he thinks this might be related to Leo and I. Duke's breathing has leveled off, and with his calmness there's a feeling that we've managed to ride out the storm.
My grandpappy lived through all of it, and stayed in the town after.
Oh? I notice Leo's not looking around anymore. Instead, his eyes are trained on the door behind me, and slightly to my right. Kutsu's here. I want to look back, but Duke seems distracted right now, so I try to keep him engaged.
Yeah, it happened weeks after the body was found. Sort of built up till all hell broke loose.
Leo nods his head slightly, eyes still on the door, and my heart leaps in my chest as I realize what might be happening. Do you know why that was? Duke shakes his head.
There's something bad in this town. The earth's bad, the air's bad, everything's tainted.
So, you think something's in the air, or water or something? I lean a bit to the left to try to keep Duke's eyes on me, away from Leo or the door.
I don't know about that. My grandpappy thought that 'cause they didn't catch the murderer, it planted some seeds in the bad dirt.
Duke looks at the ceiling.
And grew something terrible. Wasn't until they killed that guy that it stopped.
That's news to me. I didn't read anywhere that the murderer had been caught. Duke looks back down at me.
So, I don't know what it is. If it's a murder, or guilt, or not catching someone that did wrong.
I hear the softest sound of a footpad against the floor behind me, and pray that none of the others did.
But it started when you got here, so you gotta forgive me for wondering if one of you did something bad.
Duke starts to raise the gun again.
And brought that guilt back to this poisoned land to grow the seeds again.
Duke doesn't sound like himself at all, not even his recently crazed self. Still, though, I don't want to admit it. I start to have an idea of what Duke might be getting at. How this all fits into our history.
What was that kid's name a while back that died in the lake?
He wasn't murdered.
You sure about that?
Yes. But I'm not, am I?
Oh.
TJ? What's up, bud?
Well, that's what Flynn was kind of getting at.
Why is Chase not... I don't like the idea that Chase isn't sure about that. I thought that was
I just thought Flynn was being an asshole.
I thought this was a closed situation.
And it was just Flynn being an asshole.
What the fuck? I swallow hard, aware that some of the pieces don't fit, despite how disturbing the implications are. We have never interrogated this yet. We don't know anything about Sydney still. But that was years ago. Why didn't it start then? Why now? Duke shrugs.
Maybe you wasn't guilty till now. Maybe kids don't understand what they've done. Maybe it's because you left and made it angry.
But he wasn't murdered.
You see it happen?
No, but the person that did wouldn't ever do that.
So am I talking to the wrong guy right now? Who was it?
I look over at Leo again, swallowing hard.
Who was it?
Duke starts to raise the gun again, and what happens over the course of the next minute is too fast for me to comprehend until it's over. Leo explodes out from his sitting position, face twisted with rage as he bares his teeth in a full-on wolf snarl. Though his feet are handcuffed to the legs of the chair, he's still able to lunge off the ground with his feet. He launches himself at Duke, slamming into the weasel with a painful crunch of flesh on flesh and metal on concrete. I gasp and watch as Leo starts ripping into Duke with his teeth. Duke screams and flails his arms around, apparently forgetting his weapon as it flies from his fingers. The gun slides across the ground to tap gently against the wall, just 5 feet from me. Brian keeps a tight grip on me, though, but that's where I hear a clicking sound behind me. Brian does too, and turns sideways, allowing me to see the source as well.
Kudzu!
And there stands Kudzu, both hands on Leo's handgun as he points it up at Brian's head. It clicks uselessly, though, and Kudzu's face is a mixed mask of terror, desperation, and confusion. The safety! Leo is still struggling on the ground with the screaming Duke, lifting his mouth from the weasel's arm to shout at Kudzu. Kudzu's eyes snap to the gun in his hand, but Brian's already moving. He kicks at Kudzu's hand, and it connects violently, sending the gun flying into the air to clap against the ceiling. Brian lets go of me at that point, reaching out to catch the gun.
Oh no! This sucks.
Oh, yeah, this is already a save menu.
Why did Kudzu, you didn't check about the safety? You didn't check if the safety was off before you decided to show up? Oh,
he doesn't know how to use a gun.
Obviously not. Oh no.
Fuck.
Okay. Fuck, okay.
The irony is that every time I've ever heard of a safety, it's in the context of it making someone less safe because they get fucked over by it. Because that's the only role it has in movies, is to stop somebody from firing.
Okay, let's see here.
Well,
I think to help Kudzu, we have to get the gun.
Yeah,
because it's going to be a big issue.
Going for the gun as being reasonable, even though I don't know what Chase is going to manage with a gun. But we are both very small compared to Brian. Like, and he goes through us like water. Yeah. So, like, what are we accomplishing by helping Kudzu? What does that mean?
If Brian gets a gun, we're all fucked. Because not only he's a bear with a gun. Just think of that.
A bear with a gun? Blam blam.
Have you heard about?
Have you seen that sequence?
No.
The Hellboy monkey gun sequence?
No.
Oh, well, that's the next thing to show you. I did show her the raccoons, everyone. Now I get to show her the Hellboy monkey.
I get a little bit of education every time.
Yeah.
Every time we do a game session. Have you seen the trailer for the Cocaine Bear?
What the fuck?
There's a movie. There's a movie coming out based on a true story where a bear gets into a large amount of cocaine and becomes crazy. Because that actually happened. It's probably gonna be a really trash movie, but
Yeah.
a coked up bear isn't something you wouldn't want to have to fight.
No.
And
or a regular bear.
This bear, I think,
bear.
this bear does drugs.
Yeah,
and,
he is a coked up bear.
and will have a gun soon. So we need to get a gun before he gets a gun. Cause
He probably uses downers more than...
no, I mean he probably uses meth, which is even scarier. Of a bear on meth.
Yeah. It's not good.
Meth strength is like tweaker strength is already like a thing. You just, you have no. You don't think about anything.
Right,
You just do it.
Let's go for Duke's gun.
Go for Duke's gun.
Because no one's fighting over Duke's gun, I realize that might be my best chance. I lunge in the opposite direction. Clumsily, I scoop up the weasel's gun, turning it over in my hands until I'm holding it the right way.
Oh no. Brian, my gun!
Leo's still tearing away from the weasels. Leo's still tearing away from the weasels as Duke holds them in up in defense. Weasel's arms.
Yeah.
Leo is still tearing away at the weasel's arms.
arms.
Okay, I'm like a word somewhere is missing, I think. I've heard that the Leo route has the least, feels like almost unedited. Like there's mistakes just here and there definitely have been. I turn around, crouched back against the wall as I see Brian standing over a downed kudzu. I can only pray that he hasn't killed him yet. I point the gun at Brian, just as he turns around to face me. Seeing that he's about to get shot, the bear lunges at me, his massive paws up stretching out towards me. Luckily for me, the gun is loaded. Trying to keep myself steady, I manage to find the safety and flick it off. I shoot him right in the face.
Good.
Oh.
Good. I'm okay with this.
The sound is so loud in the tiny room that my hearing goes out for a moment.
Yeah, if you shot a shotgun in a basement like that, your hearing would be pretty bad for a while.
Brian crumbles to the floor and the room goes quiet. But only for a moment. An earthly howling sound comes from the bear as he slowly props himself up on his hands, looking back up at me. For a moment I wonder if the evil powers of Echo have brought him back to life somehow. But no. There's a bloody hole just above his blunt nose, and I can see the white of bone peeking through the red. Somehow, the bullet hadn't even pierced his skull.
Oh my gosh.
Shakily, I raise the gun again, but Brian rolls away to the door, and with speed that shouldn't be possible for a bear his size, he's gone. Oh. That's not what I expected. I'm like, oh, it didn't pierce his skull. He's definitely knocked out. Nope.
He just
Jesus
gets up and leaves.
Got a fucking bulletproof head.
He just abandoned his poor friend.
He did get shot in the head.
Yeah, that is a key
I don't
to
think
leave.
he's doing well. But I thought he'd be unconscious. I thought the thick skull was going to be used as a moral out for Chase to have not just killed somebody, but I thought he'd be out, not moving around like a fucking spider bear, apparently. I stare for a moment, wondering if I should run after him, but a snarl next to me as me pointing the gun at Duke instead.
Has me.
There we
Yeah,
go.
sorry.
You gotta guess him. But a snarl next to me has me pointing the gun at Duke instead. Leo's still tearing into his arms, as Duke hollers at the top of his lungs, trying to cover his face. Leo, stop. I've got the gun on him. Leo looks up at me with wild eyes, pausing for a moment before slowly letting go of the mucilid's arms, bloody drool hanging from his chin. I try to ignore that and keep the gun trained on Duke's head as Leo flops to the side in his chair. After seeing how little the bullet had affected Brian, I'm not so confident it would do much damage to Duke.
I think it's more of a
bear thing?
Yeah.
Maybe bears just have thicker skulls, but I'm more worried that the gun is just shit. Duke doesn't move, though, as he lays back against the concrete, eyes closed, gasping for breath. His arms are at his sides, both of them leaking blood onto the ground. Leo really did a number on them. He definitely needs to go to the hospital. A hand touches my shoulder and I jump. I look back to see that it's Kudzu.
Sorry. You okay?
Leo's gun hangs loosely from one of his hands. Kudzu, you fucking saved our lives. I grin at him as I almost sob with relief. I want to hug him, but I have to keep the gun on Duke.
Of course. I'm sorry I didn't stop him when he took you. I wasn't sure what to do.
He touches my shoulder again, and I can feel him trembling. Don't worry about it. We're okay now. Can someone get me out of these handcuffs, please? My arms are fucking killing me.
Killing you? You ripped mine apart.
Duke is practically sobbing now, curled up on his side to hold his arms to his chest. Fuck you, asshole. Leo spits at him as he tries to adjust his position on the floor.
Where are the keys, Duke?
Duke takes in a shuddering breath and holds it for a few seconds before answering.
Right pocket.
Kudzu walks over and kneels next to the weasel, shifting through his pocket. Keep an eye on the door, Chase, in case Blubber Gut comes back. I try to angle myself so I can keep an eye on both the door and Duke, though I'm pretty sure the latter is through at this point. Kudzu pulls the small metal key out before moving over to Leo, fumbling around for a good while before the handcuffs finally drop to the ground. I'm hoping his arms are pretty out of commission, because I'm a little worried how Kudzu is really close to Duke right now while not having his attention trained on him, because he has the other gun. This is how every side character dies in Yakuza. every Yakuza game, someone doesn't pay enough attention to where the gun is right now, and then someone gets shot. And you're like, guys, it's been like 5 games. Stop.
Always keep your eye on the gun.
Leo kneels there for a moment, wringing out his wrists. You okay? He smiles at me. I'm a little sore, but I think I'll be alright. He gets unsteadily to his feet, taking a pair of handcuffs up with him before bending quickly to give me a kiss on the forehead. I'm so happy you're okay, Chase, and thank you, Kudzu. He slaps the raccoon on the back before turning his attention to the weasel. Duke notices and quickly curls up tighter.
I was just trying to help everyone.
Leo grabs him by his bloodied arms before yanking him violently to his feet. The weasel's screams double as the wolves twist those arms behind his back, handcuffing them. Why the hell do you have so many handcuffs anyway? Duke starts sobbing again until Leo whips him around and slaps him across the face. Duke sways, stunned by the power of the blow, before Leo brings the hand back and hits him on the other cheek.
So this is how you actually slap someone, not with your tiny hands, like you did to Brian that one time.
Grow bigger hands. Yeah. Noob.
Yeah, loser.
Shut the fuck up.
Leo
ignores Kudzu as he pulls the chair back up and throws Duke into it so violently it almost tips over.
Please. I'm sorry. I just want to help.
Duke cowers as Leo raises his hand again. I realize how tightly I'm holding onto the gun, and though I'm pointing it at the ground now, I'm sure to take my finger off the trigger. While Leo's violence is a little disturbing, it's almost comforting to have him throw his weight around after how the weasel had threatened us. Kudzu, on the other hand, doesn't look comforted at all. He's still trembling from the earlier fight, and he's pulling at the fur on his chin as he watches Leo.
Careful, Leo. Let's just take him into the cops or something.
Kudzu looks over his shoulder at the door.
Going to Peyton was probably a better idea, now that I realize how messed up everyone is.
Yeah.
I mean, if that monster they're all talking about isn't real, would have been better to risk that than get involved with these idiots.
I hadn't even thought about the supposed thing keeping everything from leaving the town. It seems silly now that we let a stupid story like that keep us here. Leo doesn't seem to be listening. You're a fucking lunatic, Duke. Why shouldn't I just kill you right now?
Leo
looks over his shoulder at us, finally, shaking his head at Kudzu conspiratorially. Kudzu goes silent as Leo goes back to staring down at the weasel. Now explain to us what the hell is going on. Leo leans in closer as with his bloody muzzle, and Duke cringes back. Tell the truth and maybe I'll let you go. Leo glances at me. I won't kill you at least. He's trying to make it clear to me that he's just trying to scare Duke. At least that's what I hope he's doing.
I already explained.
Duke's eyes dart back and forth between us. The way he's kicking his feet around with a high-pitched, whiny voice makes me think of a child. He thinks that a lot. He thinks of a lot of actions as being childlike. A really ugly, malnourished child.
Oh,
this is bullying.
Insult to injury.
I still feel a little bad for him, though. Reminds me, because I was a little fucking distracted. Kudzu sidles up next to me and sets my hand on my shoulder.
You want to watch the door?
I touch hand in acknowledgement and turn around to face the door. I don't really think Brian's going to be coming back, though.
I told yous. Something bad's happening, and we need to figure out what.
Yeah, but how did kidnapping us help anything? Duke sighs deeply, and I glance over my shoulder to see him slumping in defeat.
Last time this happened, it might have been caused by a murder. Not the murder, but the guy that got away with murder.
There's a moment of silence. Okay. Leo's tone demands that Duke go on.
So the guilt from the guy, or the worry in the town, or just spirits, heck, I don't know. Maybe all of that. But it came together to make everything go crazy.
Okay, sure. But how does this have anything to do with us?
I saws the otter sneaking around town before you says they got here.
I look back again and see Duke looking at me. So is Leo.
Seemed kind of fishy to me, so I thought he might have something to do with it all. Was my only lead.
Leo doesn't respond this time. I look back again and see that he's still looking at me. What is it?
You told me yourself, Leo, that you saw him sneaking around too.
It was someone else.
How the hell do you know that?
What are you guys talking about? Kudzu, can you watch the door? I finally turn around. Leo leans one hand on the back of Duke's chair as he sighs. If you remember, Chase, I told you about how I thought I saw someone out my window that looked like you. Leo turns his glare back onto Duke. Got drunk with this asshole and accidentally told him about it, too.
But we both saw it. Isn't that a little bit strange?
Some otter came by the town that looked like Chase. What the hell was it? What the hell else was it? Leo glances back at me and I feel like there's some doubt in his eyes. I mean, you weren't here, right? Of course I wasn't. I know, I'm just making sure. Leo turns back to Duke. Why would that mean anything anyway? Duke looks around, visibly clenching his toes.
I've heard stuff about doubles, like doppelhangers, like doppelgangers or something. Oh yeah, so he doesn't say it wrong.
Yeah.
Like doppelhangers or something. Doppelgangers? Sure, but people talked about that shit happening back then, seeing themselves and stuff.
Okay, so if we believe that shit, why would it mean he has anything to do with anything?
Well, my grandpappy said that the guy that did it was in 2 or 3 places at once sometimes.
There's a moment of silence as we all absorb that bit of information. Sounds like a load of shit to me, Duke. Duke jumps up in his seat.
I'm just telling you what I know.
So what's your solution to all this then?
I don't know. It stopped when they got the guy.
Duke cowers in the chair, then glances at me. Leo follows his gaze and his eyes turn steely. Duke seems to notice Leo's sudden change in demeanor, but before he can do anything, he gets a massive slap from the wolf.
Leo, stop it.
Duke immediately starts sobbing again and curls in on himself. Me? This fucker wants to get at Chase. It did seem that way. Did Duke think this was the only way to stop all the problems in this town, was to kill me?
Duke.
Kudzu tries a different approach, his voice much gentler than Leo's.
The problem with your theory is that Chase hasn't killed anyone. Right, Chase?
Of course not. Of course not. Oh. Chase! What's up, buddy?
So maybe we need to rethink things a little, huh?
Or maybe he can do that in a fucking jail cell. We're going back to get my van, then we're gonna get the hell out of here.
If we can. I'm still not sure about that thing that Mayor was talking about.
I think we're about to meet it. What thing?
A monster or something? The mayor told us it's killing people that are trying to leave.
Leo stares. Has the town really gone that fucking insane? Kudzu shrugs.
There were bodies.
Jesus. Leo looks around. Well, it still sounds like bullshit, but if there is anything, we'll be fine if we leave in a car. Did the other people not leave in cars? The motel's closer. We can use my car instead. Sure. Duke is still staring at me with a hard look. I get the feeling that, despite all of the things we just told him, he's not buying it. Leo hauls the weasel off the chair, gaining a little squeak of pain from Duke as he's forced to break eye contact with me. What about the others? We're gonna try to find everyone we can before we leave, but the priority is to get ourselves to a police station. Leo pulls me to stand in front of him before gesturing at Kudzu. Good. Take the gun. Safety's off now. Kudzu visibly frowns as I hand it to him.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I want Chase between us. I don't trust these fuckers to not try anything, especially if Brian comes back. So with Kudzu leading the way, we make our way out of Brian's house and into the night.
Oh gosh.
Well, just gonna leave him down there. Hopefully, I guess it depends on how bad the arm damage is.
I mean, we grabbed handcuffs. Honestly, we should just handcuff him down there.
Yeah, he's like handcuffed to himself, but not to anything, which seems like a design flaw.
It does.
Granted, the moment we go anywhere, it's harder for him to know where we're going, but we did just announce that we're going to the motel for Chase's car.
Yeah.
Which is a little too much planning in front of the villain.
We're not very good at this.
Yeah. I feel like that's something I should remember if I want to ever try to write a story along these lines. Like, make people not good at this. Because it almost is weird if everyone does actually do the perfect choice all the time. Like, everyone's a fuck up all the time.
Yeah, like we wanted to save Leo as soon as possible.
Yeah. Everyone's a fuck up.
Including you.